The Labour Party manifesto, as my colleague Paul Murphy said last night, on reforming politics, time for change, made it clear that Ireland never again would suffer from abuses like we'd seen in the past, and that all positions will be opened up to qualified candidates. After the McNulty candidacy, the Taoiseach herself spoke about new procedures, much clearer, and now, this week, those have been bypassed. So you're condemned by your own words. Now, the Labour leadership came in tonight, Deputy Brendan Howlin, and tried to throw smoke and mirrors around the whole issue. It was laughable hearing you talking about gender quotas to try to distract us in some way. But then to come along with the charge that anybody supporting this motion is attacking the Labour movement. Well, because Mr Begg comes from the Labour movement. Now, what part of the Labour movement does Mr Begg come from? The part of the Labour movement, Taoiseach, that earns €137,400 a year, has a company car, because that was his salary, as the General Secretary of Victim. I assume you agree with that. In other words, he doesn't represent too many people in the Labour movement who don't earn $137,400. Does he represent the side of the Labour movement that consciously worked to ensure no protests took place in this country, when the working class people of this country were sacrificed to pay the gambling debts of developers, bondholders and a wealthy elite? That's the side and tradition of the Labour movement that David Begg represents. Now, since Labour have come in tonight trying to defend the appointment of Mr Begg, you've put his position up for debate. As I said, in 2010, Mr Begg was the head of this trade union movement in this country when the beginnings of €16,000 was taken out of the pockets of every man, woman and child in this country to pay the debts of the bondholders. Mr Begg retired in March, and who gave the eulogy at his retirement due? Only yourself, Taoiseach, where you thanked him for his role, and I quote, in supporting the work of the Labour Party. What part of cronyism is that? You appoint one of your own who supported you in your work, and you appoint him to a position. Now, I know it's only 20 grand. It's chicken feed in the pockets of David Begg. But to other people, actually, that's a serious amount of money. Mr Begg was there in Aircom, in Aer Lingus, when they led to the privatisation of both of those companies, something he did nothing about. And also, of course, recently testified at the banking inquiry as to why he did nothing as a non-executive director of the central bank. He admitted that supervision was neither effective or appropriate. So this is the David Begg that you've rushed to bypass a selection meeting. But tonight we're debating a motion of no confidence. The government has put up a lot of reasons why we should have confidence in you, Taoiseach. And as Shakespeare said, let me count the ways that I don't have confidence in you. Because since coming to high office, Taoiseach, you've rendered useless so many adjectives that were used in the past, such as treacherous, disgraceful, incredible, through overuse, because even by the standards of right-wing Labour, which has gone into coalitions for the past generation, in your role as Minister for Social Protection, a department so integral to so many vulnerable people, working people, unemployed people, women, children, you've shown absolutely no mercy when asked to swing your axe by Fine Gael. You began with a propaganda campaign when you took office in that department about welfare abuse, paving the way for an attack on all of the safety nets that people need in society. I suppose most startling is your attack on women, mainly working class women. Funnily, you got elected on the back of Mary Robinson's election in the Mulhuddard ward, but you proceeded, since coming into this office, in cutting child benefit, which attacks every woman in this country, a broken promise by Labour, and 8 separate cuts to lone parents, 90% of whom are women, the biggest group in poverty in society already. Using along the way, Taoiseach, the most Tory-style language of welfare dependency. Absolutely despicable stuff. Callous beyond belief, and despite letters and protestations from many women, you had no compassion. The back-to-school allowance, clothing and footwear, fuel allowance, maternity pay and, of course, rent allowance, Minister, a key facet of your department. The manner in which you've presided over a housing and rents emergency in this country really does put your position up for a vote of no confidence. Cutting rent supplement was bad enough, which meant you were putting the most vulnerable in the position of becoming homeless. But more than that, how does a Labour leader stand over 28 council houses getting built in the first 3 quarters of 2015? How do you actually justify that? Surely the Labour Party is at least meant to stand for something like that. And lastly, Taoiseach, one of your most despicable acts in your role as leader of the Labour Party and Taoiseach is the events in Jobstown, where you've criminalised a whole working class community, where on Friday, this Friday, men and women will go to court because of you bringing into play a whole series of Gardaí having nothing else to do for the last year, and the courts face the court for daring to protest against your austerity measures. I've often heard you saying, Taoiseach, you had no role in the police prosecuting this. I've never once heard you saying for the charges to be called off. Never once. And you have that chance tonight, as you've had for the last year or so.
Sorry, Deputy, you can't interfere in the normal process of the law.
Lastly,
you can't use a debate in Dáil Éireann to interfere with people's rights under the law. Yeah, whether you agree or disagree is irrelevant.
I want to finish on your role in history. I believe with this appointment, you've actually placed your own seat in Dublin West on a knife edge, because if there's one thing that unites everyone from Mulhuddard to Castleknock to Clonee and beyond, it is cronyism and corruption. The one solitary thing that you would expect the Labour Party to stand for in government was taking a very clear case.
Sorry, Deputy, did you use the word corruption? Deputy, you cannot in this chamber accuse people of corruption or anything else. No, sorry, Deputy.
Sorry, I said that the Labour Party
you'll have to withdraw your remark about corruption.
To take a stand against corruption by saying that all appointments were done in an above-board way. You weren't here when I spoke earlier, in fairness, Cathaoirleach, but I made that clear. Now, tonight, obviously, in the vote of confidence, the government will troop in.
I hesitate to interrupt Deputy Coppinger,
sorry, Deputy.
But she is in a narrow, bitter way.
No, we can't have that. Please go on.
Ever in my existence.
Sorry, Taoiseach, please resume your seat.
Been involved in anything that has involved any break of the law.
Thank you.
And I think,
sorry, Deputy, please resume your seat. I've already warned the Deputy about the use of her language. Deputy, I'd ask you to stick to the motion and don't insinuate things on other people. Sorry, no, please.
She didn't say that. So didn't accuse the Taoiseach.
I'm telling you, Deputy, you cannot use this chamber to accuse people of any wrongdoing. Thank you.
Can I continue? Or maybe your friend from ISIS behind you, did you ever apologise for calling people, ISIS?
Please.
Sorry?
Withdraw that remark.
Which remark? That he called people ISIS? He did. That's just a fact. Oh, you're saying he didn't? Okay. Well, you better withdraw from the record that you did. Can I just finish
resume your seat.
You did, actually.
People will read the transcript and they'll see that what the Deputy is at. Now, would you please stick to what is allowed under standing orders in this chamber?
So, in finishing...
You're not beyond standing orders.
In finishing, Ceann Corley, obviously tonight the government and the Labour Party intend to troop in here, vote down this motion and vote confidence in the Taoiseach. But in 6 or so weeks, maybe more, but 6 weeks, the electorate will have an opportunity to give their vote of confidence in you, Taoiseach. And by your actions in recent times, this appointment,
you're taking time away from Deputy Pringle.
They will make a very
Deputy, you've only 5
verdict,
minutes. Resume your seat. Thank you. Resume your seat. Deputy Pringle has only 5 minutes now as a result of you. You never be interrupted.